I'll call to order the Board of Supervisors meeting Mendocino County for April 1st. Roll call, please.
Supervisor Delbar?
Here.
Supervisor Pinches?
Here.
Supervisor Smith?
Here.
Supervisor Kovacs will be reporting shortly. Chairman Wattenberger?
Here. And at the conclusion of today's regular session, we'll have a closed session item to be taken up at the end of the day. And I'd like to invite Scott Miller to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, please. Thank you, Mr. Miller. Okay, next on the agenda, we have the minutes of March 18th. Any discussion on the minutes?
I'll move to approve.
Okay, been moved and moved to approve. Do I hear a second?
Second.
And it has been seconded. Any discussion on the minutes of March 18th? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? Okay, passes unanimously. With Supervisor Kovacs absent, so that's a 4-0 vote. And the minutes for March 17th will continue to the next meeting in Fort Bragg. And let's take up the consent calendar, including the agenda addendum. And has there been proper notice on the agenda?
Yes, we do have proper notice.
Okay. Any items from board members to poll? Supervisor Pinches.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to pull item 4 just to register my no vote.
Okay. I don't believe we need to pull that. We just need to identify it as a no vote.
Yeah.
Okay. So, what action do I hear on the consent calendar?
I'll move to approve the remaining.
Okay. Okay, it's been moved and seconded to approve the consent calendar, and with the discussion from Supervisor Pinches on item 4, it will be recorded as a no vote. Other comments towards the consent calendar? Hearing and seeing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor of the consent calendar as stated, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? Okay. So it does pass on a 4 to 1 or a 5-0 vote on items 1, 2, and 3, with a 4 to 1 vote on item 4. Supervisor Pinches. Okay, moving along. Legislative fiscal report from the CEO's office. Anything to report, Mr. CEO?
No, Mr. Chair, nothing on the legislative report.
Okay. How about under the CEO officer report? Item 6B.
Hot off the presses. A few items just notifying you of some issues going on. We are meeting with RCRC on Friday with our 2 representatives from the board. Some of the items are follow up on some issues that we've not yet resolved. For instance, the Homeland Security audit, that is still going an ongoing process with the infamous Mesa JPA that we're still trying to get a handle on in order to get an audit done of those funds. One that came up in the last week or so that I had not previously heard of was the Ukiah Library Needs Assessment, and that is a project that's currently underway under the leadership of our library director. The city staff are involved. It does affect downtown, but I wasn't sure how many board members knew that needs assessment was floating around out there. Also, the privatization issue that had come up, where we did have a party give us a proposal on privatization of solid waste facilities. We're in the final stages of analyzing that proposal, and I believe we have that scheduled for the April 22nd board meeting that we'll be bringing back to your board to have a discussion on that matter. Probably one of the other budgetaries, in accordance with some of the other things we're doing here today, I want to let the board know that our office is monitoring the use of overtime by county departments. We have had discussions with various departments about their usage patterns. We did have an excellent meeting with the Sheriff's Department and very thorough review of some of the problems and challenges they face, both with recruitments and staffing issues. Linda Clauser from HR joined us in that meeting to see if there were some opportunities to reduce some costs, and I think it was, from my standpoint, it was a very productive meeting, and I think we all came away with a better understanding of why some of the overtime is being created. So questions, I'm available.
Supervisor Delver?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Mitchell, in regard to the GDF and the miscalculation in the fees, is that, do you know at this point if that's limited to just the GDF, or is that district-wide or wider in the district of miscalculation of the CPI?
Don't know the answer to that. Meredith, do you know, Meredith?
Just GDF? Okay.
The auditor has been reviewing those fees.
Okay. Yes. There was some concern amongst the community that it was broader than just the GDF. But thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Any other questions of the CEO? Okay, thank you. Let's move to item 6C then, update on the 08-09 budget development process.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'll start off with a little bit of an introduction, and then Allison Glassy will carry it forward for them. This is an attempt by our office to inform the board on a number of different issues that are going forward with the budget. It's been an interesting process being a new player to the county and seeing how Mendocino County does its budget. I have seen some of our department heads who haven't been through a reduction process before. They're having some struggles and some difficulty understanding how we go about creating more of a zero-based budget as we're starting here, or a modified zero-based budgeting, I should say. So I think all of the departments are engaged. We do have another department head meeting, which we have the first Wednesday of every month, scheduled for tomorrow. And we'll be reinforcing budget issues and answering questions by department heads on different goals and objectives. So let me turn the time over to Allison, and she can brief you on the remainder of the topic.
Hello, Allison Glassy, Assistant CEO. What I'm going to do is provide you an overview of where we are in the budget development process. As you know, we build on that process over the next several months, and then how the subsequent items on this agenda relate to our budget development process. So what you should have is a packet, and there are copies for the public on a cart, I think, out in the hallway here. But one packet has a memo on top that says executive direction on the 2007-08 budget. And this is an item that actually Tom reported on in a previous CEO's report. But when we're talking about the budget process, this is part of it. And what this represents is executive direction on the 2007-2008 budget, meaning the current fiscal year. And that's as opposed to the budget for next fiscal year. And the goal of this particular communication with department heads was to lay out a strategy for finishing out the fiscal year and to develop as great a fund balance carryover as we possibly could going into the next fiscal year. So the goals for this direction were, as this says, threefold. And it was to make sure that we stay within